Pokémon Emerald is one of the most beloved Pokémon games of all time, and it's easy to see why. It's got an engaging story, tons of environments to explore, that music, and the post-game. But over the years, the Pokémon franchise has added tons of quality of life features that Emerald now lacks, and it can make playing the game a bit tedious for more hardcore players. I'm talking about things like a stat judge in the PC, auto-running without the B button, muting the music but you can still hear the cries, and more. Now, Emerald doesn't need these things to be a great game, but it's pretty obvious players want some of them, because every single ROM hack and fan game of Emerald version includes things like this, and I think they're cool too. But the issue I have with ROM hacks is they're, well, ROM hacks. It's not my Emerald. It's not the one in this Game Boy right now. The one that can trade with my friends and connect to Coliseum and all sorts of other things a standard game could do. Well, what if I told you there was a way to add features to that Emerald? Your real one, without having to use any hacks. This is the Nintendo e-reader. It's an old peripheral for the GBA that can scan trading cards with these dot codes on, and they contain games or other things to add to a game. It was like the original form of DLC before DLC existed. It's actually how the original Eon ticket was distributed, and I've taken advantage of it a few times before to make custom events for Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. The e-reader is really cool because it lets me add ROM hack type stuff by using unused parts of the game's save chip and save file. A few months ago, I actually used it to fix Pokemon Emerald's biggest glitch. It's broken RNG. This is something that prevents you from being able to soft resent hunt for shinies, and notably, it locks you out of doing soft resent hunts for the starters, for the Johto starters, and even for Deoxys, and a couple of other things. And generally, players have to work around this glitch rather than being able to just play the game like normal. Right at launch though, when I released it, some people noticed there were some bugs. You, most of the time, couldn't save in areas with no music, which is where Deoxys is, and everyone wants to hunt that. And then sometimes Dewford Cave would also crash. While I finally got around to trying to fix these issues, I also decided to field questions from you, the viewer, to see what features you would want in Emerald that later games had. And I would combine these updates with my Emerald Seed Fix patch that already exists to make a new and improved copy of Emerald that you could run on your childhood games without a ROM hack, without an IPS patch, or even a flashcard. And you could still trade with your friends and do all the normal stuff. Now, this isn't going to be easy by any means. I have to code all of this in ARM-Thumb assembly to save some space, and debugging code that runs every single frame is quite annoying, but I was determined to get it all done. First, of course, I had to fix my seed patch, which was actually pretty easy, so I'll keep it brief. The way this works is I have code that runs every single frame to see if the player is saving. And if they are, I put some code into box 12 and safely store the Pokemon in box 12 elsewhere. Then I change the player to a glitch object. On game load, the glitch object looks to box 12 to run custom code, which seeds the game's RNG properly, and then also fixes all of the stuff that I broke, like put your Pokemon back into the PC and makes you no longer a glitch. Previously, to check if the game was being saved, I looked at G save counter, which, well, counts how many times you've saved. This was too late into the saving process though, as by the time it updates, the game has saved a little bit already. And area with no music or overlays to the visuals changed the speed at which the game was able to save, causing my process to fail. Now I am able to hijack the save function right away by looking at the text for saving, which always happens before any saving is done. So now you can actually hunt for Deoxys and Emerald on your real copy, or save properly in Dewford Cave. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look at something that I wanted to do. The ability to mute music. All modern video games have a slider or something to adjust music, sound effect, and voice volume. This is great for me since I stream and record games a ton. So I can play my own music but still get audio feedback of some kind. And it turns out Emerald actually has a really simple way to do this. It's actually so simple, I was shocked this wasn't a feature in the base game. You see, in RAM, there's this location called G disable music. That's always at 0. If you put a 1 in that location by like RAM hacking or something, the next time the game tries to load music, it doesn't. This usually means switching locations or something like that. So in addition to just setting this value to 1, I also run the in-game function to stop the current audio track if you press the R button. If you press R again, the music comes back. I do this by checking to see what value I store in disable music. If it was 0, which means music can play, I run the play BGM function for the music the game currently has. I do all of this by loading the current value from G-disable music and performing an exclusive OR operation on it. If the value is 0 there, exclusive OR swaps it to a 1. and if it's a 1, exclusive OR makes it a 0. Pretty handy, I think. Now I can hear Pokemon cries, wall bumps, and other important sound effects while listening to this cool song my friend made. Okay, that was something I really wanted. But what about the people? What do you want? Well, I asked this very question on my YouTube page, and the #1 response was a way to see a Pokemon's individual values. In modern games, the way this works is you set the PC to judge mode by pressing a button, and it shows you a range of possible stats via a word. Things like decent, pretty good, etc. In modern games, 0, 30, and 31 are always identified via no good, fantastic, and best. I also wanted to include EVs in this function, because the modern games only show you if your EVs for a specific stat are at the max value, 252. This means that yes, in 2025, you still need external calculators to know your Pokemon's IVs and EVs. Here's how I went about handling this. In the party screen, I'm looking for 2 different button presses. Select an R or select and start. If you hit select an R, when you view any of your Pokemon's summary, you'll see all of their IVs. And if you do select and start in the party screen, you'll see all of their EVs instead. Implementing this was actually easier than I thought it would be, but I did have to be careful about a few things. The reason I'm able to do this is because of how Game Freak stores Pokemon's stats. To save space, the stats you see on the Pokemon summary screen, including level, are all only calculated whenever they're needed. So Pokemon in the PC are actually 20 bytes smaller than Pokemon in your party. These stats are basically stored as plain text and can be overwritten anytime I want to. So on the respective button combo, I ask the game what a Pokemon's IV or EV is, and then I store the value directly in that stat. And I loop it 6 times, 1 for each stat. I also loop it once for every party member, only stopping if the next Pokemon species is 0 or we're out of the party's location in memory. Then, whenever you leave the summary screen or leave the party menu, I restore the stats to normal. Otherwise, you'd see insane looking HP stats and such. I also prevent this from working while you're in a battle. The reason for both of these things is because, while the stats on the summary screen are temporary, as in they'd reset if you put a Pokemon in a PC or heal them at a Pokemon Center, they are real. So in a battle, they'd work as displayed, which we really don't want, considering IVs only cap at 31. Meaning my level 100 Electrode here would be slower than this level 25 Mightyena. The last thing I did was add a sound effect whenever the IVs or EVs are displayed, to give you some feedback, since there's no visual change while you're in the party. Personally, I love what I cooked up here. After successfully finishing the program, I was just hitting the buttons and looking at my Pokemon's IVs and EVs over and over and over. It felt so surreal, like I was playing Emerald Rogue or something. It's not as convenient as being able to do this in the PC, but I like that it does the whole party at once. What do you think? Would you prefer if I try to tackle this on PC Pokemon, or is it good enough as is? Up next was a feature they introduced in the very next generation, being able to run inside of buildings. In Gen 3, when the running shoes were introduced, everybody loved them. It's a nice way to pick up the pace of the game's movement without the bike, and it makes the game feel more outdoorsy. Being able to run around as a kid is such a natural thing, you know? But it has a big flaw, which is that you can't run indoors. I guess the people in Hoenn are just extremely polite, because this was changed in Sinnoh. This actually might be the easiest change I have to make. Every single map in the game has what's referred to as a map header. It contains pointers to things like the map's layout, its connections to other maps, its music, etc. One of these things is a single byte true or false statement that determines if cycling, escape rope/dig, and running are allowed on your current map. I force all of these to always be true, and you can run and, yes, even bike indoors. I actually don't even let you turn this feature off unless you turn the entire patch off, since it seems like such a minor thing. You can also use escape rope or dig out of any building or structure. In fact, while I'm writing this, I actually found a way to be able to use fly while indoors. So if this project/video gets enough interest, I could include that in the next update. If you'd like to make that happen, consider subscribing and hitting like. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subs by the end of the year. The last thing people were asking for a ton was that when a Repel runs out, the game immediately asks you if you'd like to use another one, as introduced in Black and White 2, so you don't have to constantly go in and out of your bag. I agree that this is a great feature, but once again, I think I can improve it. The game has a struct called Wild Encounters Disabled. It's always set to 0. I don't think it's ever changed or used. Maybe it was for debug purposes or something. But the game also always checks the value in it whenever you step on a tile that could generate a wild encounter. If it's set to 1, you will never, ever, ever get into a wild battle. So in the overworld, every time you press R plus right, I exclusive OR whatever value is in that struct. If it's a 0, it'll switch it to a 1, which will make wild encounters stop happening. And if it's a 1, it'll switch it to a 0, which makes wild encounters happen again. Now, using this patch, you'll have an infinite repel that ignores level, and you can turn it off and on whenever you'd like. While working on it, I had a thought though. It might be preferable to have an actual infinite repel that takes into account Pokemon level. Like for shiny hunters doing the repel trick, or just someone using a repel trick to get a rare Pokemon. I don't think both need to exist in the same patch though. So what do you think? Should I change it to just behave like a normal repel, but infinite? Or do you not want to have to worry about level at all, and just skip all of the wild encounters on a route? And that's all of the features I've felt like adding. We have the initial seed fix, so you can shiny hunt like normal. The EV checker, so you can know your stats. The IV checker, so you can know your IVs and not have to talk to this man 100 million times to find out all of your stats. A switch to turn the music off and on. A switch to disable wild battle. And the ability to run and bike anywhere. The last thing to mention about this project is that any feature that can be switched on or off is persistent through a save, but it only starts once the save file is loaded. So Emerald's music will continue until you hit A on the save file select screen, which is kind of annoying for soft reset hunts, but not a huge deal in my opinion. If you're wondering how to get this e-card patch into your game, you can watch this video I made a while ago. It explains all possible ways to get this event into your Emerald version. Once you have scanned the e-card, you have to talk to this aide in Professor Elm's lab in order to turn the patch on. Once you do, he'll tell you that you have to save the game to make sure that the patch sticks, which is true. Once it's turned on, you can talk to him again to turn it off, and he will also be reporting the initial seed to you. The reason you can turn it off is because there are certain instances where you have to. If you're connecting to Coliseum or you're doing a multiplayer battle, you should turn the patch off before you engage in that. This is because the way they interact with the save game, I don't really have full control, so just turn it off if you're doing any multiplayer functionality. In addition to that, if you turn it off, the game is fully vanilla again, aside from the aide's dialogues. The only way to remove it fully is by scanning another e-reader card like the Eon ticket or like one of my events. Now, I know I've had people concerned with the seed patch that turning it off via this guy isn't enough. I promise you that it is. If the patch is off when you talk to this guy, no custom code is running. It will only ever run if you talk to him, and that's it. So it's fully removed if it's turned off, and it's safe to play in all normal states. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if any of you are using any of the features on your streams or hunts, please tag me on bsky, YouTube, or in my Discord. The e-card is free to download on my GitHub, and there's also a save file right in front of the Hoenn starters with the patch enabled, so you can shiny hunt those in Emerald regularly. And lastly, I'm going to be streaming the day this video drops, showcasing its features, and using it to shiny hunt soft reset a Totodile, my favorite Pokemon, using the seed fix. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.